Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful day with us. I am astronumerologist Lloyd Strayhorn, and welcome to another edition of Live with Lloyd. And as you see, I have a very distinguished guest coming on in just a moment. My distinguished guest, his name is Henry Smith Jr. He is a Taurus, May 18th, and that's all I'm going to tell you for now. All right, but anyway, I want to thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. Here we go, folks. Anyway, it's Wednesday. It's a full moon day, by the way. Technically, it'll be a full moon day at 11:08 p.m. tonight. But if you look outside, you'll see the moon is nice and round and full, all depending on what location and angle you can see it. But in the meantime, before I bring my distinguished guest on, let me do the cosmic forecast for today, all right? And I should have it right this time. Yes, it is Wednesday. Yes, it is the 7th of December. It's also the birthday of my beautiful daughter, my firstborn daughter, Kira. So wish her happy birthday. The sun is in Sagittarius. It's a full moon in the sign of Gemini. It's a 9 universal month. It's a 1 universal week. It's a 7 universal day. And those under the signs of Cancer and Pisces are favored today, as well as anybody born on the 2nd, the 7th, the 11th, the 16th, the 20th, 25th, and 29th. And almost forgot. Please like, please share, and please subscribe. Press the buttons. I notice now whenever I go to some of the other formats on YouTube and the other ones, they say, please like, share, subscribe, press the button, all that stuff. So, again, you know my attitude, and that is very, very simple, folks. If you genuinely like this show, just thumbs up. If you would like to, like, share it if you think it's worth it, and please subscribe, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my distinguished guest. His name is Brother Henry Smith Jr. Henry, how are you, sir?
I'm fine today, Lloyd. Thank you for having me on your show.
First of all, I'm very, very honored. And you know what's interesting? A lot of people don't know, and I tried to share it yesterday. You know, you've had a situation that most people don't get. And so it changes a lot. And from what I understand, and I've got it right here, because the document was sent to me that on September the 30th of 1984, there was an event that took place that literally changed your life. Would you want to share it with us, please?
That is correct. And I do want to share that with you and with the audience and with the public and with the community. I want to say what happened to me. It's been a long time ago, but the damage is still affecting my life. What happened on that day in Brookville Park in Queens County, someone was murdered in the park, and they didn't have anyone to pin it on, and eventually they pinned it on me. Now, that's the short version. I sent you some documentation where all the records and everything is there where one could read it. And so I'm just giving you the short version of how I was framed up on that day, October 12th. I was arrested September 29th, 1984, Brookville Park. This crime occurred. It went throughout the community, and they arrested me. It was like, no, there was never really no attention given to my case where people would know about the story. They probably heard about it, but don't know about it. And so now I want to expose, unpack. I want to show them what happened, how the criminal justice system can take a person and put them, like, basically kidnap me and take me through a process where, fortunately, I made it back home where I can share this story with the community.
Question, Henry. Where were you on that evening of September the 30th of 84? Were you in the vicinity? I mean, if a murder's over there, where did they find you to even try to pinpoint this situation on you? What happened?
Right. Good question. So on that day, I lived like 2 or 3 blocks away from the park. And so on that day, I went to the movie theater a Sunrise movie theater that's near the park, and by myself. And I was dropped off by my father. I was about 18 at this time now. And so I'm dropped off at the movie theater. I see a woman in red, which is the show that was the movie that was showing that day. And after that, I socialized a little bit and then I walked home. On my way home, I bumped into two guys who were standing by the park. They was there before I got there and they was there when I left. And then when I left, the next day, I heard that there was a murder in the park. It had nothing to do with me. I felt kind of bad about it because a murder's in the park. It's in the community. Staying in the community with this is the violence.
Understood.
So because I passed the park and rumors, and people started, I guess, assuming and making who was over there that night. And they took my name, as you will see in the documentation, and they fabricated an account, which puts me in the park as if I committed the crime.
Really?
Yes.
So did they bring you in? Did they interrogate you? Did your parents get involved, or what happened?
So what happened was when the crime took place, September 29th, 1984, for 2 weeks, they were looking for someone to put to blame this crime up on. And so what the detectives were doing, they were stopping anybody that was walking down the street, basically the youth, and asking them about, did you hear anything about what took place in the park? Now, a detective came across one guy by the name of John Murdoch. You'll see his name in the paperwork.
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, and John Murdoch basically didn't know anything. He heard that I passed the park from a friend. So the detective, with his strategy, takes John Murdoch down to the precinct, basically tells John Murdoch everything that took place at the crime scene and said that he seen me. He was the one that seen me at the crime scene doing the crime. And so based upon this information, they started to build the probable cause for my arrest. And then they put my picture in the lineup. They start going through all these processes like it's a legitimate probable cause, a legitimate suspect. And so so then now they're looking to arrest me without a warrant. They don't go get a warrant. So what they do, they sit outside my house and they're waiting for me to come out, right? And in the process of waiting, one of my friends happened to walk by and they thought it was me, and they asked him who was he, and they found out his name. They said, get in the car. And to make a long story short, with this guy, they ended up choking a confession out of him, saying that me and him was together, and we wasn't together that night. He has an ironclad alibi of being in a men's shelter that night. Fortunately, he went to a men's shelter that night, and he has the social worker, he has the guy that was sleeping next to him in the bed coming to testify that this guy couldn't have been at the park with this guy. So it's all a falsification. It's a false story. And we've been fighting this for 30 years, 35 years. And I took a lot of detective tests by the district attorneys, handpicked specialists. And there's no gun, there's no fingerprints. And so the case is a really weak case that they just put together. And as we looked at the crime, it was stated that it took place in the park, 12:30 at night. There's no lights. You can't see your hand in front of your eyes. And the individual who was saying that, the crime took place, his story was suspect based upon all his details in the dark that he's seen. And so right now the case is still being investigated. Thank God that we're reinvestigating the case, and I'm hoping that justice will eventually prevail for me.
Now, you said even during the trial, when they asked to identify you, they couldn't identify you.
No
That's
identification.
crazy.
Right, exactly. I would thought the same thing too, because when I was at trial, they asked to identify the guy who did the crime. and the guy misidentified me. He didn't identify, he identified somebody else. He was just trying to identify somebody, in my opinion. And so he misidentified me, led me at the lineup. And so the case was fought, the case by the time witness identification, you got an informant who says that basically he was told what to say, he wasn't there, you know. And so the case is still before the jury, and they say once he did something here, right? So they found a way to find me guilty with this evidence.
And even though part of it was in part because of an informant?
Yeah, suborned, perjuried informant, an informant who was suborned, who wasn't there, who doesn't know the facts, who was fed information. So you're not really an informant. You are a falsified witness.
Wow. So once they found you guilty, where'd you have to go? Did they send you to Rikers Island or?
Right. That experience of the conviction and sending me upstate so reminded me of when they took us from Africa and they brought us here on boats. And it's like they got boats that go upstate. They're called buses, though. And every so many times a month, they're taking all these men out of our community and they're shipping them upstate New York. And they're providing citizens. And
can you repeat what you just said again? Because there was a break. They send them upstate in the buses, and they do what again?
And they provide the economy for the citizens upstate. For the people upstate, they are providing jobs. They are warehousing these men. And I guess I'm not saying everybody's innocent, but the system, that's the system that we live up on. This is what happens to a person if you're wrongly accused or you're correctly accused. You will go through the process. We have a system of sending boatloads of men from our community up to the upstate community so that they can serve out their time and provide jobs.
Well, Henry, I've heard that before, and it's not the first time that quite a few upstate towns and whatnot are actually thriving because of the prison economy. And the majority of the people in that prison, in that economy, do not look like them. They more look like us, that we are actually providing jobs and everything else for them, and it's all predicated on that. So, what people I don't think realize that when you went to jail in that sense, your family members was too. I mean, people I don't think have a clue that once a person is affected with incarceration, there's a indirect ripple effect. Can you tell us about that? Like your mom or dad or somebody tried to see you or whatever?
Also I wrote a book called The Prisoner's White Husband. And basically in this little memoir, it's explaining the relationships that people have, the wives, the daughters, the mothers, the fathers, the brothers. Mostly it's women that's coming when I was there to see the men to make sure they have packages and they have relationships. And so it reminded me of again, the slavery process, what we went through when it was taking the babies away from and how we survived and endured the pain. So there's a pain that's going through all these families every weekend, people trying to go upstate to make sure their loved ones are all right, spending money and supporting the economy. And so those are some of the facets or the aspects of this criminal justice system that not only at the trial level it's unfair, it's really unfair after you get convicted. And I always want to bring attention to these issues, and I'm glad I'm able to do so now on your program.
Well, I'm glad you are too, because I think a lot of people don't realize, that everybody behind the wall, so to speak, isn't guilty. What was the response when you told people once you were incarcerated and sent there, that you were innocent? People say, well, yeah, everybody say they're innocent, or what was your experience?
You go back of after they try to destroy your saying that because everybody says they're innocent. So shut up. And so sometimes some of us we do shut up. We eat that. And we walk around like guilty men, although we're innocent because nobody is trying to hear our cries. And so what I used to do, see, I worked in the law library. What I did, I was proactive with this case. I educated myself. Went to the library. I broke down the Constitution, the statutes, the cases. I understand how they think now. I understand their system. And so now I'm able to fight it, challenge it. And so that's was my response to this horrific experience. And yeah.
Let me ask you this too. In light of that, when you were, I guess it probably seemed like a nightmare when you were sent to incarceration because of something you didn't do, something you didn't know, something you wasn't aware, and yet fingers were pointing at you for which they convicted you. How long did you spend time in incarceration?
I did 25 straight years. And from the age of 18 to 43, I was confined in their system. And I fought every day for my integrity. I fought every day to keep my mind strong and to be able to come back and be with my family and share this information with those who are not familiar with this information or who are familiar with the information and um, that it's real. It's real.
When did things begin to turn around? And it's interesting. I think there was another case that just hit the papers just last week of a man that spent a lot of time incarcerated for something he did not do and just got out. And it just seems to be a pattern too often with this of brothers spending all this time in jail for something they did not commit. And
It's
so,
it's
go ahead.
it's amazing because you have groups of individuals who wake up every day discussing their case, hoping that they will receive justice from the system when they appeal it. Um, Constantly also studying, learning the laws, they can be able to articulate the issues. And for years, at every jail I go to, you'll see a certain amount of brothers, a group of people who's constantly proclaiming their innocence and always reading the newspaper, looking for something to open the door so they can get their freedom. And that's common.
What finally opened the door for you then?
Well, what happened for me was that I went to a parole hearing, proclaimed my innocence, and because the situation um, was okay, they released me. I think out of economics because the the budgets and the money and all this other. So I happened to slide out the door, but I'm still fighting my case. I'm still proclaiming my innocence, and the case is being looked at, and it can be seen now for some reason. It can be seen.
For some reason, we really having a bad connection. I don't know what that is. I don't know what the why that is. I don't know what's going on with that. But I know this: since you've been out since you've gotten out, you've done a lot for yourself. You've educated yourself. Can you tell us what happened?
Right. So after getting off parole, undergoing that situation, I went to school, Mega Evers College, got my bachelor's degree in psychology. Then I went and got my master's degree in social work. I'm just trying to find myself, educate myself, and be an asset to the community, and keep uplifting, building myself. I found that that was the key to remaining strong, staying focused on what's important. And
You know,
so,
did you go through what they would call, I guess, a cultural shock? Because in '84, I guess the phones were still attached to the walls.
yeah,
They didn't have smartphones. They didn't have the internet. There was a whole lot of things. So after 25 years of coming out, did you have a hard time adjusting?
well, yes, I did. Although I always told myself that if I could survive that experience on the inside, whatever challenges that I face out here is nothing. And so the cultural shock was heavy, and I still am experiencing culture shock. For many days, I would wake up and it would just blow my mind. I had a Google search engine at my disposal where I could ask myself any question and get answers. While before, I was like in a cave, pen and a piece of paper and just my mind and the library, the books and stuff like that, which was great. But now it's like everything's at your fingers, and things do move faster. And sometimes we try to move as fast as how things present themselves. And I find a lot of us speeding. I find myself speeding in this new culture. And so I'm just taking my time with it. I'm adjusting to the new culture. And I see a lot of people adjusting because the computers just came in like 20 years ago. And so if you're like 40 years old, 50 and 60 years old, some of us, that computer can be very intimidating.
I would imagine so. Um, so now, what are some of the things you want to advocate so other brothers aren't mistakenly or falsely accused and dragged off to incarceration for years? Because it takes you away from your family. And see, imagine if you had had children at that time. You know what I'm saying? You would have missed all the milestones of children developing, going to school, graduating, getting married, engaged, and stuff like that. So, um, what happened in that sense, Henry?
Yeah, I do think about that. And, individuals where, it's not only your suffering, family is suffering. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have any children where I had to go through that agony and pain and despair, it's something I still grapple with. Now I don't have any children, you know what I'm saying? So now that was kind of rough for me. So it's like, it's got a pro and con. But I adjust, I accept those things I can change, those things I can't change. I work real hard on it, and and what I want, my dreams and my desires is that we get a better education, which is law, in our community. That we start taking these so-called constitutional amendments that we're supposed to have, and enforce them. Um, be a more informed citizen so that we can control our communities.
Well, in light of that, though, as we move forward, I know you are advocating now for these things to be done because don't they have now advocacy groups? I forgot one of the more popular ones now. To their whole purpose is to focus on people wrongly incarcerated. I forgot the name of
The
the
Innocent
organization.
Project.
That's right, the Innocent Project. Right. Were you a part of the Innocent Project?
Yeah, I'm a part of the Innocent Project now, and the society is going through an evolution in regards to the law and these innocent projects that's popping up all around the country. And we're finally starting to see the system for what it is. I think that we give them beyond reproach consideration of the courts, and we think that they wouldn't lie, they wouldn't do this, they wouldn't hide evidence. And so we're learning now that it's not what we think it is. And so we're um, adjusting to the new system of with these integrity review units, and so in 5 years, 10 years, a lot of stuff that we used to do, hopefully we won't be doing no more. And a lot of people who are in jail may will have been released, and so we're at that place of um, revising the system, or people say just tear it down and build it up again. How that works, but it's something needs to be done.
Well, I'd have to agree. If you've gotten you and countless others, unfortunately, incarcerated for crimes you did not commit, and yet you're forced to serve it. And you know what's interesting too, and I'm sure you may have heard of being incarcerated. They will find out, in fact, that somebody else did it, and the person who is falsely accused, incarcerated, still have to remain there maybe for a year or several years before they're finally released. Why is that? Once they found the real person, like in the Central Park Five, why, when the person in the Central Park Five finally confessed that it was him that did it, those brothers were still locked up way past the time they should have. Did that happen in your case or with other people you know?
Um, right. I'm learning to understand how they operate, and the bureaucracy can be really slow. And then when you got media attention, for some reason it could speed up. Depending on who's behind the scenes and the opposition. We got the Central Park Joggers case as a perfect example. They made the movie when they see us, and in that movie they showed like the district attorney and the people that be like trying to keep that conviction up, even though it's suspect, and it gives us a peep behind the scene of what's going on. So that's all we have right now. What I would like to also do is get a wall of shame, just like that lady was shamed in the Central Park jogger case. The district attorney, they didn't buy her books no more. She couldn't even go to different galas and events.
I heard.
Yeah, I think that that would be a good remedy for these individuals who's hiding behind the badge, behind the authority that they've been given, and destroying lives and walking around like nobody know that they exist. I think they need to all be exposed. We need to expose them for those cases so that we at least know who these people, so that they know that, and it would give a deterrence to other people in the future, so that they don't, you don't want to get put on this wall of shame of and stuff like so.
But you know what's interesting? Some of these DAs, detectives, police officers actually built their career and advanced their careers based upon the false accusations against brothers of color.
Yeah.
That's how they did that, and that's so unfortunate that we would be used as the scapegoat to build their careers at our expense, taking brothers away from their family, their children, their loved ones, the neighborhood, the community, things of that nature. And so while you were there, just before you finally got out after 25 years, and since you had been working with studying in the library there in incarceration, were you able, or did brothers reach out to you for legal advice or suggestions? Because I guess you were all looking out for each other, right?
Yes. The relationship, when when you're locked up, and you we need each other sometimes. Although I'm not saying that there's not chaos going on there and all type of stuff going on with that people, but there are serious black men in places trying to come home to their family, not trying to catch more a legitimate charge where you hurt somebody, and then they say, well, you did this one, even though you didn't do this one. And so individuals, brothers is trying to navigate the system. And I used to work in the library, so that was my job, to help people. And the more I help people, the more I learned, I helped myself and learned more about cases that I would have never learned about if I would have just stuck to my own case. And so there are guys that help each other to learn the law so they could apply it better. And when you get arrested, like, everybody knows the library, everybody knows the information. It's the citizens out here that don't know about the various books, the statutes, the cases, the Constitution. But everybody in there, after you've been in there for so while, it's like a second language. And then we get to see what the system is made of, how they stay with the decisions, or how the decisions are really poor decisions, you know.
But see, this is what I'm saying. That even though when they found out that the person incarcerated was wrongfully incarcerated because of maybe evidence not submitted into the courts, I understand that has happened. You know what I'm saying? Evidence, false accusations by informants, and like you were misidentified in the court itself. You would
Right.
have think that sitting in a courtroom, the person that's accusing you can't even identify you, that would have said, hold it, excuse me, we need to stop what we're doing and back up a bit. But they move forward and put you in a way. That's
Wow.
weird.
I knew I was going. I thought I was going home. Once he said it wasn't me, right? Not, I'm like, I was waiting for them to process me out of this thing. But they always got a way to put another layer on it, or distract from the issue and keep the train moving towards conviction.
Question: how long did they plan to keep you incarcerated for the rest of your life? Because when you talk about murder, that's a whole nother thing.
Right. Yeah. Well, the sentence was 25 to life. And most people normally do 30, 35. I was fortunate to make my first parole board. I give God the thanks for that, because I was like, that torture of 2 years, 2 years, 2 years at the parole board until you say what they want you to say.
Hold up. What do you mean by 2 years, 2 years, 2 years? That for people like myself that don't understand, what does that mean?
Okay, so if you get a sentence of 25 years to life, you have to do 25 years first before you go to a parole board in order to try to go home. And
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And so after you go to the parole board and they decide, okay, we're not gonna release you. They give you normally 2 years to come back in 2 years, and then we will have this conversation again. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So those 2 years, it was just like, wow, now a guy got to wait for another 2 years to get to this point again with these people in order to try to explain the case or whatever. And then they normally do that 3 or 4 times.
So, in other words, they don't normally give you the first go round. It's not that they don't believe you, but they're not convinced. Is that what you're saying?
It's well, it has nothing to do with them believing whether I'm innocent or guilty at that stage. Um, am I a threat to the community is the next argument they're trying to see if they should let you go. And you can do everything. You could be a pope, and they still can give you 2 years because they feel you're a threat to the community. And that's their racket. I call it a racket. It's like this thing is a racket in a way. But I understand that you need prisons, you need these things because we got a society, people commit crimes.
Yeah, but not all people, brother, commit
They
crimes.
exploit that fact. They exploit that, because one little thing go wrong, everything goes wrong, or everybody's a criminal, or the ones they want to profile as criminals. And
I gotta be honest, Henry. I gotta give you credit for coming on to do this, because I know it's not easy, but I know you believe, because I met you at an outdoor event, and when I first met you, we talked, and I said, and when you told me what you was going to do, and that was in the summer, and I said, would you like to come on to talk about this so people can get to understand that when you were put away, it also put your family under stress. For example, I was not aware that as soon as you were incarcerated, they probably took the addresses, the phone numbers, the names of all your family members in case you escaped, so to speak. They'll be waiting for you at your mother's house, waiting for you at your father's house, waiting for you at your girlfriend's house or whatever the case is, and they don't. So people who may not have gone through what you have, family members, need to understand if any of the family members are incarcerated, almost everybody is on file.
Yeah.
So what did your family members or father or whatever do? I mean, they must have went through some drama too. You're on the inside, they're on the outside, but they're just as helpless.
Right. And most families are like that. Something happened. If you're not connected with a lawyer, if you don't understand how the system work, you're just like, you're just a victim to it. And this is why I promote that we become informed of this system, everything that we can to be a part of the curriculum. Since we are using the criminal justice system more than anybody else, we should know how it works at least. And that's my position on that.
So, what would you say? What is next, or how can people help you? In fact, because I've got a banner we're going to put up, because I know you have a Cash App, you have a GoFundMe to kind of raise people's level of things like that. And I think if a person, because this is in New York City, I don't know about other states across the country, but if you're incarcerated wrongfully, then there's supposed to be some kind of compensation. But knowing them, that's going to take forever and a day because that's exactly what they did with the brothers in the Central Park Five.
Yeah, so right. And that's how they do us. And so we have to be patient and continue to fight, bring attention to the issue. And I still have to survive day by day until that takes place. So, and then,
Now that you spent 25 years incarcerated wrongfully, how is it about? Because under normal circumstances, trying to get work can be challenging. And I understand when people are incarcerated, rightfully or wrongfully, when they get out, you and I, the average person who may not have had that, don't have an idea what you got to go through. I think they ask, did you ever have felonies or whatever the case is? And so, how do you get past that hurdle when all you want to do is get yourself right, get back in because it wasn't your fault, okay? And you just trying to get your life together and do your job as a person. What happens?
well, I've been trying to overcome these hurdles of having a felony and unable to work in certain occupations. And so now I have to depend on somebody hooking me up with a job, or I have to go through a whole bunch of steps to try to clean up my record, which is so frustrating. It makes me don't even want to it's really. They say 100 men. If 100 men come home, 85 of them go back to prison within 3 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah, those are numbers.
Out of every 100 men that come out, about 85 of them go
Go back
back.
in 3 years.
That's what they call recidivism or something like that. All right,
Yeah,
Emmett?
that's the prison rate.
And
And
is there a I have my own, but I haven't gone through that experience. What seems to be the reason for such a high return back to a situation that incarcerates you even more?
that's a good question, and I've been analyzing that, and I've been seeing all the stuff they did to me in that process, and how when we come out here psychologically, we are geared to go back for one thing or another, dealing with one issue. We get trapped off in something where, in 3 years, 85% of the men recidive, go back to prison. And I got my theories of how the culture in prison, how they program you, because they're programming you in there every day, Monday through Friday. They got this thing called on the program, right?
What's that?
That's you go into various programs that they have set up within the facility so that you can engage within the facility. You may be a porter, you may make license plates, you may do this, everything is a program. And I didn't program with them. I programmed in the library. My program was the library. If they can't teach me nothing, they can't do nothing. I don't do programs. And so or those type of programs, or their programs. I do my program, and so um, that liberated me more so than being stuck in near um, this system of thought.
Well, what were you doing in the weekend if they had programming from Monday through Friday? What was the weekend process like?
Oh, my program is always is um, growth and development, my own personal development, my time for my space, clear thinking, meditation, um, you know, um, critical thinking, you know, self development, and that happens 7 days a week. So there ain't no vacation from that. And that was my program to keep me strong.
I would imagine falsely incarcerated like that, you probably woke up on some mornings and just, it was like just a whole nother world for something. And I know you probably questioned the insanity of that situation that you were in.
Yeah. Um, I'm lost for words, with this. And although, we say we're the best country in the world, blah, 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 and many things, um, I felt like I was in a country that had no laws.
Well, I know this: the United States is known for having the highest incarceration in the world. Not only that, but the majority of the incarcerated brothers in the United States are looking just like you and me. Now, that's like saying that all of us are like this. All of us are criminals. All of us are antisocial. All of us are negative like that, where our route, because even now in the school system, they got a prepared to prison, what the school to prison hotline. In other words, they've got it whereby just with the educational system, that the way they're programming, especially programming young men, and I think they're going to go after the ladies too, the girls, is it's all designed eventually to wind up in a situation where you were unjustifiably. And I think there's something really wrong with that system. There's something wrong for this supposed to be supposedly the greatest nation on the planet, yet to have to incarcerate so many people around the world, and especially people that looks like you and me. And if anybody got a problem with that, y'all go do this stat yourself. Don't take my word for it. Don't take Henry's word for it. You go and you see the very large amount of, for us to be a minority in this country, why are we the majority in incarceration? Things like that. So, are you still trying to help people that's still incarcerated, especially falsely?
Um, I was working with some lawyers, and I was, trying to help individuals. It's very difficult, because a lot of lawyers, it's a financial thing, and I'm not in the best position like I want to be to help, but I'm getting there, and I work with organizations. Um, People reach out to me because of my experience, and if I can help them in any kind of way, I do so. So basically, that's where I'm at with that.
Well, I tell you this, Henry. In fact, I want to put the banner up so people know what they can do to be of help to you. And this is um, Henry Smith's banner. He's a penal reform advocate for those that are falsely accused. For those that want to reach out to him, maybe you got family members that's been falsely incarcerated, but so you can call him directly at 516-341-2735. That's 516-341-2735. His IG, I like your Instagram, Stolen Legacy. I like that. There's a famous book out by that too called Stolen Legacy. And I think so. Please, if you want to support Henry Smith Jr., you can go there. Please also, you know my thing when I have guests on and he is not in the best situation in that way. So please send some love and donations to the Cash App, which is dollar sign $777 bill. I like how you did that. I don't know how you did that, but I think that's good. So it's dollar sign dollar 777 bill, and you'll go fund me. Now this is the link. So please, if you want to get your camera, take a shot or screenshot this, and later go to the fundme.com and support wrongfully. I'm going to make a contribution myself. I'm telling you straight up front. That's what it's going to be.
Thank you.
That's how we're going to do. We all need to look out for each other. And so, in fact, you'll be the first GoFundMe person I've ever been to. I've never done any of that, but there's always a time to start. So it's Henry Smith Jr., penal reform advocate. So for those of you who maybe have family members that were wrongly or falsely accused and still incarcerated, perhaps reaching out to Henry Smith at 516-341-2735 will help you. Talk to a person that's had that experience and can probably take you through some of the minefields of what you got to go through. And I think it's a shame, Henry, that if you got money in this country, you can walk away with some things. But if you ain't got no money in this country, boy, help you. What do you think?
I think it's both. I think that you can have money, and if you don't have the right lawyers, they could take all your money, and you still end up with nothing. I think it's a combination of both. We need some money, and we need some education, and make sure that people do their jobs.
Well, I tell you this one thing after talking to you on several occasions, I know you're very determined. I know you sent me the documentation leading up to that. And in fact, you even sent me an interrogation where they actually interrogate. Who was that? The Murdoch person they interrogated?
Yes. I sent you.
Yeah, I saw that. I heard that. It was so, to me, listening, it was so obvious that it was like a total disconnect. And yet they went ahead with that interrogation to justify to incarcerate you.
Yes.
That seems so wrong.
Everybody that heard that tape said the same thing. And it took me 30 years to get that tape.
What?
Because my lawyer, so much discovery, so much information is occurring at one time that they slip up and they don't give you this document. And then if you don't get it then, it's hard to get it later on. Or you might not get it later on. Because I have a legal team now that's working on this case diligently, I'm able to get certain things that I didn't get when I was first arrested.
Well, let me say this to you, Henry Smith Jr. If listening to that interrogation, if I, a layperson, never did anything in that way, could decipher from listening to that conversation, there's a total disconnect. And you got professional men and women in law enforcement who are trained to interrogate and whatnot. You mean they could not see that, and yet they went ahead and falsely still incarcerated you in the first place, brother?
Yes.
That's insane.
Insane. But I don't know. I'm just like.
And then again, it doesn't surprise me, and it doesn't surprise me that it took 30 years to get that interrogation tape, because why would they submit that into evidence? Because in no way, listening to that tape, is it going to say, well, he's the one that did it, because everything points to a man that don't know what he's talking about and making it up as he goes along the way.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. So anyway,
I'm glad that you got a chance to listen to it and see what's going on, and I hope to expose that to the other people, make it public knowledge, because they made me look like a monster when it was all a lie, and didn't fix it.
that was the purpose, my brother. There wasn't concern about fixing it as so much as about fixing you, unfortunately, and so many other brothers that have been falsely. Now, we ain't saying that every brother behind the wall is innocent, okay? We ain't gonna go there with that. But we're saying there are far more brothers that should not be, that is. Okay? And Ricardo, that's your hand, buddy. Thank you. So that's all I'm saying is that this, I think, should be a wake up call to many, many brothers that have gone there in an unjustified way. And I thank goodness, Henry. So all I can say is keep up the work. But this is how you support Henry Smith Jr. so he can help others that are incarcerated falsely, um, and whatever the case is. But again, those are his phone numbers. Again, that number is 516 341 2735. And and go to his IG to show he shows what he does on his IG page. His Stolen Legacy. And I would say after 25 years away, you're definitely playing catch up to get involved with the media sites. Because brother, I've been the media site and I still get this thing confused. Okay, so I'm still learning. So imagine you being away all this time and coming out. It's like a whole new ball game. Everything is a whole new mindset. I think when you went away, they had tokens that you would put in the
Yeah,
translation.
right.
Now they got cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I came home and I had to get the bus. Right? I had to really prepare myself to swipe because it was like I'm in. It's like I'm in the future. Like we come from tokens, like you said. It's like, and I'm still like every day is a new learning.
I
And
mean, it's not funny, and I'm not laughing in that sense, but I'm laughing like it must have been crazy. Where my tokens at? What do you mean I don't use those tokens?
yeah.
But I am glad you're home. That's
Thank
the
you,
main
brother.
thing.
I
I really
appreciate the
mean that
love.
sincerely.
I appreciate the love. I appreciate you're bringing my information out, my story out, and I hope to be able to come back and share on your platform again.
I would very much like to have you back, and I got to thank Brother Ricardo Bentham that made it possible because I was introduced to you through Ricardo, a good friend of mine. In fact, I am the godfather of his daughter, and he has another daughter coming in a couple of months, and I've been assigned as the godfather of that daughter coming too. Her name is Selah. So there he is. There he is. Hold on. Get into the screen, Ricardo.
Yes, thank you. Um, I just want to say, listening to this, Lloyd, it just shows me the magnitude of when they say that, like the new Jim Crow, and it's a book by Alexander McNeil, and she wrote the book about pipeline to prison and different things like that. But listen to this story, it just reminds me of like Nelson Mandela, the perseverance, the fortitude, the strength to maintain that dignity, to come out and to be victorious is phenomenal, because just surviving in there for 25 years, I don't know, I might, I would not say something that I would say that was light. That was easy.
I would question that to myself. Could I actually be there? See, so for a person not going through what Henry has gone through, they'll say, yeah, 25, no problem. But believe me, had you and I been stuck behind the walls, falsely accused, taken away from our community, taken away from our family and our loved ones, it'd have probably been a nightmare for us too. That's why I congratulate Henry.
Yes.
Thank you. And my trick is self-care, taking care of myself, and constantly working on myself, man. And I thank you for your support, man.
Brother, consider that automatic, okay? That's how we're gonna roll with that one. And so again, whoops, let me see this. Okay, there we go. So again, Henry, I wanna thank you. I guess some people had comments. Let me just run through the comments a second. Maybe somebody have a question or a suggestion. Let's see something. Let me see something right quick. And for those of you who know, today wasn't about a reading, but today is basically something you need to understand that goes on every day. And there is some innocent person. No, not everyone is innocent, but far too many people have been innocent and in a trick bag situation with the criminal justice system. So for those of you who got problems with it, then you'll help straighten that situation out, okay? And somebody said Attorney Isaac Wright Jr. with 50 Cent for Life. Are you familiar with this Attorney Wright Jr., Isaac Wright?
What's the question?
there is a thing, somebody, Heavenly Lead Justice, is there at the bottom of the screen. She says, Attorney Isaac Wright Jr. with 50 Cent for life. Are you familiar with that? Or
No.
okay. Deborah Nelson, she said, absolutely, this is so horrible and a part of parole laws. She said her brother was also in the same situation. So this is not just us having a perception that this happens. This happens far too more often. Let me see what else. Okay. And so also, um, uh, Deborah Nelson says, thank you so much, Brother Henry Smith Jr. Um, and also, this one says Hurricane Carter, 2 men released that didn't kill Malcolm X. The list goes on. Reuben Hurricane Carter, the boxer, the brothers that were falsely incarcerated for the killing of Minister Malcolm X. Again, this is not to say everybody, but what I'm saying is there are far, far too many of us brothers and sisters being falsely incarcerated. Now, here's the thing, too. During the so-called 80s, I forgot, it was Nancy Reagan with the drugs and stuff, and the three strikes you out. Which president at that time? This President Biden was the one that advocated three strikes and you're out.
Yes.
Here it is. All those brothers went to jail falsely. I mean, not falsely, but all those brothers went to jail for smoking weed and whatnot. Now, fast forward to this 21st century, weed is the biggest legitimate thing out here. The thing is, wouldn't that be good if they go back and say, you know what? At that time, we falsely arrested you, because there's still some brothers that were arrested back in the 80s and 90s, or maybe having an ounce of weed or something of that nature, that is still serving time. And yet, the new fashion is that now people can go into herb stores or whatever they call the dispensaries. They got fancy names for it. They're called dispensaries now. But the point is that they can go get as much as they want to with no consequences. You can now smoke weed out in the public. I don't think you be too brazen with it, but I think if you are caught with a joint or something like that, you're not going to be arrested or do some time. So my whole thing is, those brothers that were arrested at that time for having an ounce of weed or a pound of weed or whatever the case is, how come those brothers, in light of this 21st century that dispensaries are now common from here to California, that those brothers that have been arrested under those pretexts are not released back into society? I don't know whether you ever thought about that, but what are your thoughts?
Oh, well, I'm hearing that they're making laws where they're supposed to be cleaning that up. How much they clean it up, depends on the thoroughness of the lawyers and the teams that's around these people. But it's mind-boggling, how these things are working, and but that's where we're at.
I gotta tell you, Henry, I've had you on for an hour, and I gotta be honest, man. I hope that this is a wake up call for people who have gone through what you have. I don't. I know. I can't even imagine. See, just not going through it, I can't imagine it. But imagine for those who have gone through it. So my thing is, please keep up the good work. Try to reach out to help as many brothers that are falsely incarcerated. Again, please listen carefully. I'm not saying every brother that's incarcerated is innocent, but I am saying this: if you listen clearly to me, there are too many brothers that have been falsely incarcerated, where that needs to be adjusted. And so that's not me, that's just a fact. Because almost every year I hear of somebody that spent 20, 30, 40 years uh, behind the wall for something they didn't do, but they had the tenacity. Let me ask you one more thing, too. Were you ever in solitary confinement?
Yes. And that's like, it blows your mind. Like it's If you didn't have mental health issues before, you have them when you leave. So yeah, but I was
Now
just
that's not funny, but I understand where you're coming from because you got to be saying, "Am I going crazy?" Right?
yes, y'all. I want to speak about the Malcolm X case that was just overturned, and how that story unfolded, and how it was always in our right in front of our face that they had all this evidence to show that the guy who killed Malcolm X killed, but we don't know how to research. We don't, you know what I'm saying? Nobody pulled that apart but the brother who did the movie, you know. And we need to be on all these cases. All these cases got loopholes and or misinformation in it, and information that can exonerate individuals.
Well, I tell you, in your case, the interrogation tape you gave me of Mr. Murdoch, where you could tell and listening to it, this man didn't know what he was talking about, just playing a guessing game at your expense. But that was not submitted, because obviously, had that been admitted into evidence, it would have been very obvious to the layperson, whether you knew about the law or not, that obviously that wasn't Henry Smith Jr.
Yes, they got these all these smoking mirrors. You can have all this great evidence like this and still get convicted. No gun, no fingerprints, recanting informant, and you know you still get convicted.
Well, that's why they said that if they want to, they can indict a ham sandwich. I guess that's a case
But
in point.
they know how to play with words. They know how to water these concepts down. They know how to make something seems harmless. Harmless error. That's nothing. You know, focus over here. And I don't know. You know, that's our system, our level of education. The system don't work if the education of the population is like, you know, we don't know what's going on. We don't understand law.
I would say, taking a page from your experience, I think it would be to somebody's advantage to get into learning law, as you have. And unfortunately for you, you happen to work in the library while incarcerated, so you had access to books to begin to understand, to begin to walk yourself out of that situation. And you're not the only one where, by your right, where a lot of people actually went back to school. And I think there was one person, I forgot his name. He's now a prominent lawyer, but he was falsely incarcerated, and he became so good that he passed the bar and everything. And now part of his role is defending brothers falsely accused of crimes they did not commit. But I do want to, Henry, I do definitely want to thank you, man. There's no question. Uh, and I don't think it was easy for you to come on to share this, but it's very important that people should know. So, are there any parting words you want to say to people, so the do's and don'ts, so they don't go through this or whatever?
Um, well, I would like to say stay alert, be on point, study, and hopefully we'll be all right.
Good. In fact, let me show you this one. This lady, Sherilyn Grayer, she says, "Shout to this king, referring to you, sir. I worked 16 years in corrections and always believe God's army is in there. Salute, king. I help men in the system get good lawyers and legal help. They think while he's right is wrong." Uh, yeah, so it just shows you. And Shirley, thank you so much for that. And for those of you who, and it says, now here's one thing that's interesting. Heavenly Lead Justice says we must create a position sign for these injustices, because that is a case like that. And obviously it's about the money. And I understand there, Adrian says, what do you think about the new laws implemented in Chicago on January the 1st of 2023? I think what they're doing, if I heard it correctly, indirectly, that supposedly there's not going to be no bails. You can get out on anything. I think it's probably exaggerated to create panic or fear in the so-called larger community, as it were, to think that all black men and women are criminals or whatever the case is. And they have done, unfortunately, a very good job in painting us in a very, very negative light, but yet we are the original man on this planet. And believe it or not, despite all that, we are going to save this world before it's all over, too. They just don't know.
Amen.
We are going to save this world before it's over, brother. I can tell you. Can't prove it yet, but time will tell. And Mother God is always on Mother Nature's side, or I should say, Mother Nature is always on God's side. So everything will come out in the light. But I do want to thank you very, very much. And let me put this up one more time, Henry, so people know how to get in touch. So please get in touch with my distinguished guest. And I got to thank Henry because we talked a bit before coming on. And I don't think this is easy for him. I think this is the first time you've gotten a chance to expose what you're doing, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. I haven't been on outlets like this. So we must start, I'm working with the community. I'm working with St. John University, law school, and we're gonna just make connections and fix this broken system.
Broken is an understatement. You're kind. So, Henry, thank you very much, man. And I wish you all the best. Make sure that you get all the information you need. His IG right there. Get his phone number for those of you who may have had some of those experiences that Henry has had too, so you can discuss it to find out how maybe you can resolve your situation like that, and all begin to come together as a collective to aid in resolving some of these injustices. And again, I love your Instagram Stolen Legacy. The book is right behind me on my in my bookshelf, Stolen Legacy.
All right.
The Cash App is $77 Please send some money to this brother, or go to his GoFundMe.com, because he is raising money. And again, like, you got to understand, it's hard enough to find employment. But then when you've been incarcerated, because they always ask that question, have you had a felony? Have you had this? And right there, they use that as a break, just to even get you before moving forward. You know what I'm saying? So that just seems a little like, how do you start fresh? And so it would make it comes as no surprise to me that for every 100 that's released, 85 will go back because of a lack of support system. And in fact, there was this famous movie, Sheng Redemption, where the guy had been there so long, even when they released him, he came back because he didn't know any other place to go. He didn't know anything else to do. He had been there his entire life. And I would imagine that is symbolic of many, many facilities across this country where a person has been there so long, their attitude is, where am I going to go? They know they're going to get their 3 squares. They know when it's lights out, they got some place to lay down. There may be drama in between, you know what I'm saying, with personalities and gangs and all this other stuff. But nonetheless, they would prefer that than to go out here and try to handle this world by itself. And especially when they kind of look down on all people that have been incarcerated, falsely or not. So, Henry, I want to thank you, man, and thank you very much. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell everybody what I've got. Don't forget, please reach out to Henry Smith Jr. this way. Before I go, I do want to let you know, today is the last day my online course is on sale. And that's it right there. It ends tonight, as you see. It's very inexpensive. You own it. You get all the credit for it. You get a certification. And also my December newsletter, believe it or not, is out. So please subscribe to the free monthly newsletter. So to enroll in my course, to get the free monthly newsletter, you must go to Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. That's LLOYD-Strayhorn, STRAYHORN. And this is where you sign up and own all 3 courses. Okay, you own them. And it's the Learn from Lloyd series, How to Read a Person Like a Book, The Next Step in Numerology, The Do's and Don'ts of Numerology. All right, so I want to thank them, and I will be on Clubhouse tomorrow from 7 to 8 for those that want to join me on that. But to Henry, again, let me say, brother, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. That's all I can say, man.
Okay.
You know? And you make sure you take good care, however we can be however we can be of help to you, that's automatic. You got my number. Um, and and as things progress, if you'd like to come back and share it, you got it. It's just as
Okay.
simple. Okay? In the meantime, have a
Thank
blessed
you.
day. For everybody, I want to thank you very much. Next week, I'm going to have this actress on. Some of you may know her. Many of you may know her, but we're going to have her on next week and a couple of other things going on. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you very, very much. This hasn't been one of my happiest interviews, but it's been very, very serious in terms of the consequences of situations like that where one is falsely not only just accused, but then taken away from his environment, his family, his loved ones, and put away, like just threw away the key. So for Henry, let me tell you, I have a lot of respect for this brother and any brother that's been falsely accused and weathered the storm where they got out, because I'm sure they've all been affected. There's no way. I'm sure he has not been affected psychologically or emotionally. And as I said to people, oftentimes, if you are a person of color in this country, I know something is wrong with us. We all have some challenge. You can't help it being of color in this country with the oppression and all the other things that we've gone through historically from our ancestors since we first got here, and the way we were treated and whatnot. We all have some psychological issues, so don't be too quick to throw stones at each other, folks, okay? That's all I say. And to Henry Smith Jr., God bless him. And all of y'all all take good care of yourselves too, all righty? In the meantime, as they say, okay, I'm going to sign off. And y'all have a great, great weekend. And I look forward to seeing you all Monday. Take care.